So today I want to talk about the Japanese megaliths. Now you see, when we think of Japan, we don't really think about megaliths. We think of samurai castles, we think of beautiful gardens, and if we come to the more modern era, we tend to think a lot about technology. When it comes to megaliths, Japan never really gets the type of recognition that it deserves. So you see, we find them among forests, we find them in coastal regions, we even find them underwater, which is quite striking in itself. We'll touch briefly about when the sea levels rose later on. Some people say that there was a pre-flood civilization before the Ice Age, so before 12,800 years ago. But you see, a lot of other people will say that they were a lot more modern than what people think. Some people will also say that they used ancient machinery, but then a lot of people will say that it was sheer manpower and simple tools. The answer could lie somewhere in the middle. The answer could lie on either side. The truth is, we don't actually know. So today I want to have a look at the megaliths, and I want to have a look at some of the theories surrounding when they could have been built. So without further ado, let's get into this. The first example that I want to look at is something called the Ishi-no-Hoden, which is also known as the floating monolith. Its estimated construction was supposedly between the 6th and the 7th century, which would have been between the Kofun and the Asuka period. It's made out of granite, so I want to focus heavily on the Moe scale at this point, because I'm going to take the argument of the people who believe that there was a pre-flood civilization. A lot of them say that you can't get the precision on the harder material by using the softer material tools that they used. So the Ishi-no-Hoden, it's made out of granite, which is about 6 to 7 on the Moe's hardness scale. It weighs around 500 tons. It's about 7 by 6 meters. The sides are remarkably smooth, and it does appear to float. If you were to actually look at the Ishi-no-Hoden itself, it really does look like it floats. But the truth is, it's got a very slim foundation that's balanced on a shallow pond. The official Asuka or Nara writings, they never mention anything like this. They never mention the carving. They never mention moving the giant stone. However, there is local legend. They say that the water around the stone can heal or has spiritual effects. Whether or not these beliefs have an ancient source, we don't quite know. Some scholars do draw, albeit a very loose connection. I do want to say that this could be just people trying to draw two parallels where there aren't any, because this is just something that I've read. In Abydos in Egypt, you've got the Assyrian, which again is supposed to have healing water in it. In the Egyptian practice, water at Osiris sites was seen as a symbol of rebirth and purifying power. The claim that Ishi-no-Hoden's water is special might reflect something of a shared human idea, because water in contact with sacred stones is supposed to or can have mystical healing powers. The thing is, there is no proven link between ancient Japan and ancient Egypt. The next thing I want to look into is the rock ship of Asuka, or the Masuda no Iwafune. Again, I think I might have butchered the name. It's believed to have been built during the Asuka period, between the 6th and the 7th century. Again, it's made out of granite, which is, as I mentioned earlier, that's a 6 to a 7 on the Moe scale. Again, it has really flat surfaces, neat edges. It might have been an ancient observatory or a ceremonial site, but again, the official documents from this time, they only seem to feature on wooden temples. I just want to make a point. If you are building some of the most spectacular stone granite structures that the world at that time would have ever seen, why would you not record it? Why would you not record the absolute marvel and the magnificence of what you can do with such hard stone, but then you would report things like wooden temples? Could it be that it was from an earlier time, or could it even be that people erased history due to some type of hatred? Jealousy? I'm not sure, but I'm going off track here. So a lot of people, they link these holes and these angles to sites like Pumapunku in Bolivia. Let's just say granite on the top end is a 7, or in the low end is a 6, and that copper and bronze is no more than a hardness of 4. It does give rise to theories of lost technology, ancient civilizations that we don't know of. Okay, and I think this is where it comes from. The pure mystery and the not knowing event of how any of this is done does give way to some more outlandish theories, such as giants. I do want to point out, aliens and giants I don't believe in. I'm willing to accept that there is a lost civilization. Could they have had ancient machines like Uncharted X claims? I'm not 100% sure, but they had something. They definitely had something. Anyhow, shall we take a look at the Yonaguni monument? I think a lot of people will know more about the Yonaguni monument, especially from Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan. He spoke about this quite a lot. This is underwater. Some people say this is a natural phenomenon. Other people say it's man-made. My personal thing is that it was man-made. That's my personal opinion. Again, it's an opinion. I could be wrong. I'm no expert. I'm just relaying what I think about these things. Some people do say it's 10,000 years old, but of course, some geologists see it as natural. It's off of the Yonaguni island in Okinawa, and it's made out of sandstone. It's about 50 meters long, it's about 20 meters wide, and about 10 meters high. If you have a look, it has terraces, it has steps. Many divers say it's too neat to be natural. Some propose it predates the Jomon period by thousands of years, making it older than any known Japanese settlement. Not just this, but it will also make it older than any ancient site that we know of, apart from Göbekli Tepe. Megalithic site, I should point out. Older than any megalithic site that we know of, apart from Göbekli Tepe, which is believed to have been around 12,800 years old. Problem is that sandstone can fracture, and it can fracture into blocky shapes that can look unnatural. When we look at when the sea actually rose, if you do believe that this is unnatural when it was man-made, the sea levels actually rose about 10,000 years ago. If you believe this, then this does mean that, of course, the Yonaguni monument must have been above water, built by an early culture that we don't know of. This could explain why there is absolutely no mention of anything on written records. The thing is, whether the site's man-made or not, this is going to be the one that really does cause debate. So, honestly, have a look at the Yonaguni monument. Guys, let me know, what do you think? Do you think that this is man-made or not man-made? Next, we have the Kyama megaliths. This is a solar stone calendar. It's often made of granite and andesite, again, which is 6 to 7 in the Mohs scale. It seemed to attract solstices and equinoxes, and it lines up with the sun's seasonal movements. Observers appear to see it as a type of calendar which is very reminiscent of Stonehenge. So again, we're seeing two very distant civilizations that were fascinated by the stars, celestial movements, equinoxes, solstices, astrology, everything. Next, we've got the turtle stone in Asuka. It's a carved boulder shape, and it's shaped like a turtle's head. There's no documentation of it anywhere. It's 3 meters wide, it's 2 meters high, and it, as I say, it resembles a turtle. Some people have compared it to the animal carvings that are found in Göbekli Tepe, which do seem to suggest a type of very advanced stone carving tradition, and it does seem to appear a hell of a lot earlier than people say. So in terms of the origin of its purpose, we are actually quite lost for words. So coming back to the Ishi-no-Hoden, I just want to talk about the local legends in Japan that talk about how water can actually heal. Underneath the Ishi-no-Hoden, there's a belief that the water running underneath the massive granite monolith can heal and protect visitors. See, some people collect the water and they believe that it has special healing powers. And again, this does draw a parallel with Egypt. So over in Egypt, places connected to Osiris, the god of the underworld and rebirth, they do involve water. So there does seem to be traditions where water appears to be very healing. Again, could this just be a collective consciousness, or could this be societies that were connected in a time that we didn't actually know? Thing is, there's never ever been a proven link. And the reason I'm talking about this again is purely because it does fascinate me. What was it that they understood that we don't know? And if we're moving on and we talk about the Mohs scale, see, supporters of the lost civilization, they will tell you that you cannot get this type of almost perfect symmetry and smoothness, these drilled holes, you cannot get it using the simple tools. Now, there has been an experiment that was done, I can't remember the guy's name, but they got a big granite block and they used a copper saw and they cut through it. And I think they got something like an inch or two down within hours. And then they left it there and they said that proves everything. That isn't quite the case, because it doesn't show that it was smooth. It doesn't show perfect right angles. It just shows that they're able to cut about that far into a granite block using a saw that got really blunt after a while. They poured a bit of sand into it and a bit of water into it, and they said, that's proven everything. Problem is that them trying to disprove the lost civilization theorists, what they actually did accidentally was give them more fuel by saying, look, you've tried to prove it and you couldn't quite prove it. So this argument, I do believe, is actually quite valid. But it's not just this, it's the drill holes. In many megalithic sites like Japan, Peru, Egypt, we see cylindrical holes. And it's not just this, in Egypt we see almost star-shaped pattern holes, but that's something for another video. It seems, until we can prove something else, that it could be, I want to emphasize it could be, I'm not saying for definite, but it could be an older type of technology that we've lost in the past. Could we have lost it in the Ice Age? Because the theory is that a comet struck and sent us back to Stone Age, effectively. Like I say, that there's a lack of writing. They mention wooden temples, but they don't mention the movement and the cutting of 500-ton granite blocks. But of course, I do want to point out that the skeptics of this lost civilization, they do have a couple of arguments up their sleeve. So that the slow and steady human work could answer a lot. Many workers with enough time can achieve wonderful things. Look at some of the earth mounds that we find. Look at some of the wooden temples that we find, some of the wooden structures around the world that we find, and some of the stone carvings. I mean, look what the Romans done. They didn't have exact advanced technology, but again, the lost civilization people argue that they weren't using as hard material. And when they did use granite, when they were making granite columns, they appeared to do them in sections rather than in Egypt or in Japan even, when it seems to be one big block. Or like the pregnant stone in Lebanon. If you believe the argument that there were slaves, they were under their rulers, you could argue that out of fear that they were able to build some of these magnificent things out of stone. But again, the missing documentation, the Mohs scale not matching up, the right angles, the smoothness, etc. It does seem to undermine a lot of what the ancient records would say. However, this is pure skepticism. I'm not too sure what I believe. I just wanted to give both points of view, and I wanted to see what you people thought. Sorry if the video seems a bit off script. In all honesty, I have cue cards, etc. in front of me, because I wanted to do this more of a discussion-based thing. So I want you people to tell me, what do you think? Did you know of all these Japanese megaliths? Did you know how spectacular they were? What do you think? Do you think that it was a lost civilization? Do you think it was a lot more modern? Do you think it's somewhere in the middle? But anyway, until next time, don't forget to comment, share, like and subscribe. Thank you very much.